Hey, I'm Butterfly.
Hey, I'm Firefly.
Have you ever wondered if we aren't being told the truth about everything?
What have we been lied to about? Join us as we have conversations and ask questions about everything. We invite you to keep an open mind and consider the unfathomable.
Let's break the chains that enslave our minds. Come on, let's go down the rabbit hole.
Butterfly, what's up?
Hey, Firefly.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So, last time we broke down controlled opposition, right? And we talked about how people can be like wolves in sheep's clothing,
Right.
right?
Leading you
And
astray.
that's right, leading you astray. And not what they seem, not what they appear to be. Everything's like a superficial image, and it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today.
Ooh, what rabbit hole are we going down today?
So today we're going to go down the dynamics of the in crowd.
The in crowd. Okay.
You know, like the
Yeah.
cool kids,
Right.
and then we're also going to kind of talk about how everything feels scripted and everything feels like a movie in the wake of the Super Bowl yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Do you want to talk about what you're thinking of with the in crowd and
Well, yeah, like I was thinking about how, like in the high school that you and I went to, we just happened to go to the same high school.
that's so ironic.
So, what's weird is there was a full on in crowd there, right? And it was definitive. You were like in the in crowd, or you were pretty much like a reject and a loser, like pretty much. That was kind of the way it was.
And I think it was like that at a lot of schools, it was very you know, Pretty in Pinkish or like all of those movies that depict that whole thing where
Breakfast Club.
yeah, that depict the whole scenario where there's like the really cool in crowd and then there's like these fringe like weirdos, in the other.
And a very disgusting phenomenon took place when I was in high school called 90210. Remember 90210?
No, and Melrose Place came after
Gag, gag.
but that sort of like shows like that sort of emphasize the whole in crowd thing.
They were in the in crowd. They had the sideburns and they cuffed their pants perfectly and they had money
Do
and
you
they were
think
the cool kids.
do you think that shows and movies like that are um sort of a reflection of what's happening, or do you think that they put shows and movies out there like that to guide people and it's a form of social engineering so that
If I
these
was
in crowds happen?
if I was a gambling man, I would put all my chips on the ladder. I would say that the reason that high school kids even conceive of an in crowd is because of social engineering done by cults.
They see it.
They see it. And where's the social media? I'm sorry, the social engineering coming from? It's coming from the media.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of ties into what we're talking about. So, like, what we have is high school kids completely formulating their worldview based on stimuli from the media,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
trying to emulate it, trying to be just like
And trying to, and then becoming it. Like,
it must be cool. I see it on TV.
that's right. And so we would see kids at our high school that were kind of like prototypes of what was shown on popular television shows back then,
Right.
right? And so, what is the cult doing there? What we're kind of tying that into is when you look at world events now, or like what you were talking about last night, the Super Bowl, is everything a movie and is everything a
Is
script?
everything scripted? And so, okay, so since the Super Bowl just happened, let's talk about that a little bit. I've heard that, some people say that even the Super Bowl and things like that are scripted and they guide them to go a certain direction. And I mean, you can then start thinking like, okay, everything is scripted and is nothing real, and then you can sort of, start to
You could take it too far.
you
I
can
mean,
start to
yeah,
become the
like the
Debbie Downer.
librarian or whatever is probably not on script. But
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like you can end up being the Debbie Downer because you're at a Super Bowl party and, for example, somebody mentioned yesterday, like, how did that guy drop that ball? Like he's getting paid millions of dollars to drop the ball. And I said, well, actually, he probably did get paid a lot of money to drop that ball.
well, there's
And
been a
then
lot of Super
I'm
Bowls
like
that kind of felt
I'm
scripted.
the Debbie Downer.
But that's not the Debbie Downer. You're just the Debbie asking a question,
Right.
and the other cult members just going, "Stop ruining it for me."
Right.
And the commercials are coming on. Dude, my uncle watches only the commercials, doesn't even like the football, just watches the commercials, which is a total narrative and
That's a
a
whole
total marketing, like
Yeah. That's a
brainwash.
whole brainwashing scheme right there,
The
the
whole
commercials.
commercials, right? And like weird shit has happened at Super Bowls. Like, remember that one in New Orleans where all of a sudden, like, I think it was the Saints and the Niners, and then the Saints are like up by like 41 points at halftime. But then there's like a power outage at the Superdome, and then the 49ers come out and win on the second half.
Yeah.
And it was like perfect dramatic television. And
Hmm.
then they had that one where the Seahawks, all they had to do was run it into the end zone with 2 yard on the 2 yard line, and they make that little pass and get intercepted and run all the way back by the Patriots. And I was like, that was so stupid, but maybe that was exactly what it is. It's all scripted.
It's very dramatic, very exciting. What about the one where Janet Jackson lost her part of her shirt or
Her nipple
something?
just pops out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Oh, oopsies.
that was just an accident.
Yeah.
No, that was a malfunction of the wardrobe. No, when you're going on stage before literally a billion humans, they don't have a malfunction.
No.
No, it
And
was
not
time
one
to reveal a nipple for
one
so
little
many.
piece is gonna like strategically just tear off just right at that one part.
And her career just happened to be like on the last legs, and then
Yeah.
she just gets this total resurgence and the most famous thing that she's ever done. So, that's totally plausible. And then, yeah, like you mentioned it to some of these NFL fans, they're not going to want to hear it. The other thing too about football is I feel like it's bread and circus, like Caesar said.
Hmm.
You keep people entertained and you give them a bunch of Budweiser and like Tostitos and salsa. They're just like, oh, slavery, I don't care. It's a first down.
Give them bread and circus, and they'll never complain.
That's what it is. It totally feels like that to me. I haven't been interested in professional sports really ever. I mean, it kind of got foisted on me by my dad when I was a kid, but I kind of lost interest in professional sports a long time ago. And I always did kind of feel like, what if in this country our young people spent as much time with intellectual and spiritual pursuits and emphasize that way more. And sports were like just this kind of supplemental activity to stay in physical shape.
Right.
What if we kind of reverse the
Because
weight we put on?
yeah, we've like made these athletes into like these huge heroes, and they're making millions of dollars, obscene amounts of money. I mean, like
Yeah.
these baseball players are making like, $300 million or whatever
That
for their
Japanese dude
contract.
for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, they're literally getting paid millions, if not close to $1 billion to go play a game. Which, okay, they're great athletes and it's entertaining and
Look how much emphasis we put on
it's
that.
it's a lot. And then
And what is sports? It's entertainment.
it's entertainment
And so it's a show,
yeah, and I feel like that kind of puts out a bad message to kids, like, I mean, yes, it could be something to aspire to, but a lot of those guys are not being great examples anyway to kids. But I mean, is it really a great example to tell kids that you can play a game like, just like what you're doing at your little league right now, and you could literally make like millions of dollars doing it. You're not saving any lives or anything. I mean,
And then
not
you
that we
have
don't need entertainment and fun
No, but
fun
like
things
it
in
should
our
have
life.
its proper like weight because
Yeah.
like I noticed there's like a phenomena where there's parents who are just so ambitious about their kids' sports performance.
Yeah.
And they end up ruining their kids' lives because their kids are little extensions of their ego and
Right.
they want their kids to do good in
And
sports.
a lot of the kids end up getting burned out because
Yeah.
the parents push them to do too much, and the kids end up just getting sick of
That's
it
what
after
happened
that.
with Andre Agassi. Like his dad just
Mm-hmm.
like made him do tennis so much that he got burnt out and he was like doing meth and just like tuning
Oh,
out. Yeah, it was gnarly. But like that's kind of what happens with these kids. They're just groomed to become athletes so they go make millions of dollars. And I think we need to stop emphasizing entertainment so much maybe in this country. Like how about intellectual and spiritual development. Like we don't even really value that. Like notice how everybody wants to be either an athlete or an entertainer in some
right.
capacity.
Do you think so? Maybe that's why people are so um,
Brainwashed.
easily and brainwashed and willing to be entertained by what they're seeing on TV and what's happening in the quote unquote real world. And it kind of, I think, leads us to the question of, is everything we're seeing
Yeah,
a theater?
like did
Is
Trump
everything
really
fake?
have all of those court cases brought against him and those impeachments?
I
Was all
wonder.
that real or was Trump just playing a role and that was the soap opera script?
Right. I mean, I think we're going to start getting into a very unpopular topic right now.
Well,
Would
Trump supporters get really pissed when you start talking like that. But then I was looking at Trump's ear like yesterday.
Oh yeah,
I pulled up a
how was
picture
his
of
ear?
Trump's ear and like zoomed in, and I was like, dude, I don't even see like a scratch there. Like, if you got a bullet like nailed your ear, like for the rest of your life, you're gonna at least have like
A little scar.
something.
Yeah,
Like I thought maybe you would have like a big
a
V
like a
out of
big
his,
chunk out of it.
you know.
Did
But
you?
then the blood was just like one streak, and then he's still holding up his fist,
Yeah.
and it felt
Let's
so staged.
let's talk about that whole event because when I saw that, okay, it was super weird. When I saw that, I had this really weird feeling like right when I was watching the like instant replay, I think it was just a few minutes after it happened. Um, I didn't feel any kind of terror feeling. I felt like I was watching a movie. It just looked super fake to me. The whole thing looked
Yeah.
super fake. The way there was one little trickle of blood coming down his ear, and it just strategically missed his perfectly starched white
Yeah,
collar
because that would have looked bad for his glory shot if he had a
if he
little
had
bit
like
of blood
blood
stain.
splattered all over his collar. There was
Yeah.
no blood on his shirt. And I thought, okay,
Notice how
he,
he went down under the podium too, where they could have quickly just applied. You know what I'm saying?
right, he was under there. And do you remember the people sitting behind him? They were all like kind of like zombies, just kind of watching like whatever with their phones and
Like
no, no,
playing a role.
yeah, they were playing. They were like extras that weren't really doing a good job because they didn't really look like they were scared. I mean, and he
They
mentioned
didn't
this
follow the direction of the director properly. It was
the
like, no, you really were looking clueless there, but I don't think it really mattered because most of the idiots watching didn't catch on.
they did. I mean, maybe it was bad direction. I don't know. There should have been like some direction for the
But
extras because
you're right, though. It totally felt like
is
watching like a Chuck Norris movie or something.
yeah.
It was like, dude, that's so fake.
I mean, first of all, like if you're gonna get shot so closely to your head that all it does is hit your ear.
And then,
I mean,
like,
that's a pretty
okay,
huge,
so the
that's a huge
assassination,
jump right there, right?
when did that take place? It was like August? So July or something like that?
Yeah,
So
July, I
we're
think.
talking now, it's been about 7 months, and he has no sign. Like
No.
his ear has completely healed, like
Well, it
miraculously.
was completely healed like a couple weeks later. Like he had that bandage on for a few days, and then like within a week, he just had like a little. It was like
See,
a little sticky band-aid on there.
doesn't that feel like a script?
Yeah, I mean, like he's probably too vain to want to wear that huge bandage for much longer than a week. So they just okay, but you got to put something on there. Like here's a little sticky band-aid. Like we got to at least put something to cover
Yeah,
the spot.
it's just
You
like
know?
it's such a ham-fisted attempt to like push this script on us.
Yeah.
And then here's the other thing that kind of makes me wonder if things are a movie. Look at the just characters that are a part of the narrative now. You have people like Don Lemon. I mean, he seems like he's just such a media product. He's
Hmm.
not a human.
Yeah.
He's like he worships a media god, and he just is completely 100% a media product. Or you have like what's that one lady's name who kind of looks like a lesbian that's on the left?
Oh my God. Oh,
Rachel.
Rachel Maddow.
Yeah,
Oh my,
she
kind of looks
feels.
like
Yeah, she's like full on. She's like,
she's,
but
she's a man hater.
she. Oh, totally. She always seems to me like totally fake and
She's
just playing a role.
and she just pushes whatever narrative she's supposed to push, and then it doesn't matter if like 2 weeks later they find out that was wrong. She's just like,
Doesn't
oh, whatever,
matter.
moving on to the next whatever
She
thing.
doesn't seem emotionally invested in anything that she's saying
No.
because she's just an actress up there doing like Daniel Day-Lewis part or something like
Right.
that.
Well, do you remember? So back to the I call it the shooting. I don't call it the assassination attempt
Yeah.
because. But do you remember those Secret Service, those lady Secret Service agents that jumped up to like
Yeah.
save him, and they were all adjusting their sunglasses, and they just looked so incompetent. Like, really, you really have that person protecting one of the most important figures in the country, and
She looks
she's
like she would probably protect Salad Bar pretty good. Like, dude, she'd be like, "Don't you touch my corn." But
yeah.
yeah,
And
and
she
then
gets him up, and then he's like he stood up and he's like, I need my shoes. I mean, what the heck was that all about?
so
Like,
weird.
if you're gonna get shot, your shoes fall off.
Who cares?
Your shoes fall off when you get shot.
What I
What?
know, and then
That's
also just like the
bizarre.
full on raising the fist. Like, okay,
Like, they're gonna let him stop and do
there's
that
a shooter, there's a live shooter
somewhere
somewhere
that they
right
haven't
there.
caught.
So let's go ahead and do a glory shot and give him a chance to hit you again.
And the Secret Service all stop and let him do it. Like,
Yeah.
they don't try to like
Let's just say hypothetically, it's kind of unpacking like a stupid horror movie where they really blew it,
it looked like it.
like they blew the holes in the plot. Like, okay, let's say hypothetically that their Secret Service had been informed that this shooter has been taken out. Because remember, he was just killed on sight.
Right.
And let's move on. And then okay, so how do you know there's not another shooter? How
Right.
do you know there's not multiple shooters?
Right.
You're just gonna be like, oh, fight, fight, fight.
Yeah.
It was so
I mean,
fake.
realistically, I think you would have to assume that there could be more than one. You're not just gonna like,
You would
even if
think.
you just killed that one, you're not gonna just assume, okay, coast is clear.
Besides, Coot Boy missed. He
Yeah.
hit his ear. That's
Yeah.
not going to kill the guy. You got to have another dude take him out.
And I mean, come on, if they wanted him dead, he would have been dead.
You're going to
That
send
wasn't
some
the point.
20-year-old that looks like he's autistic that
Yeah.
never had, and then all of a sudden it's like he had no social media. It's like,
Right.
what 20-year-old do you know that goes and does a killing that has a full-on manifesto but never does anything online?
He was just another one of those people that they brainwashed and took him down. He was the patsy, and they never expected him to kill Trump. I think he was
I
probably
wonder
up there
what
with the
happened there
Clintons.
because did they kill him or was that all part of the movie?
Who knows?
Was that all part of the script? Was he just playing a role and now he's somewhere with
He could,
Jeffrey Epstein?
yeah,
They're partying together, him and Diddy,
right,
they're like been taken away, because that's the other thing that you notice about this movie playing out is sometimes people just get voted off the island
right,
and now they're no longer on.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like Jeffrey Epstein.
yeah,
It was all of a sudden he was just voted off and it's
yeah,
like, oh, by the way, he killed himself. The cameras went dead right then. But nothing to see here. Let's move on.
yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of aspects to it. Like the other person who seemed like a total character from a fiction was remember that weird dingbat chick who said, "Oh yeah, Trump felt me up in the dressing room like 35 years ago." Remember
Oh
that
my
chick?
gosh, that was so bizarre.
I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
It's like E. Robin Carroll or
E
something.
E. E. Jean Carroll, right? Or
What
E.
a freaking weirdo.
She's a weirdo,
And
and
she totally seems like, again, like a total media product.
yeah,
Like she's just been worshiping the media her whole life, worships money, opportunist, will do anything, stands for nothing.
uh-huh,
And those type of people, you just tell them, okay, here's your role. And
yeah.
they just go, no problem, I'll get
They're
paid.
like excited. They're like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
love it!" And they probably gave her some money, and then
And I
she's
think that's how Trump is.
yeah,
I
and
think Trump the same way. They said, here's the script, here's your role. And he went, ooh, I like it. Because I was doing The Apprentice, the reality show. Remember? You're fired.
now I can do a new reality
Now
show.
I do a new reality
It's
show. I'm the president.
it's called America.
Yeah, it's called America. And it's going to go bad. I mean, that's kind of what's going on. And then all these like impeachments and all these trials. I just,
But they
how
all seem to like work out.
it all worked out. And he
Yeah.
was the Teflon Don. And that was all part of his, like, you can see that Trump, if I'm right, and you and I are kind of suspecting that this is all a movie, Trump's role is the impervious hero
Hmm.
that nothing can defeat him.
Right.
They tried to kill him. They tried to take him
He's
out.
badass.
He's so badass, and they just can't get him. And it's like, dude, give me a break.
Hmm.
These guys can release bioweapons from 400 bioweapons labs.
And
They're like making gnarly Ebola.
yeah.
Dude, they could have taken him out, put something in his Big Mac.
If they wanted him dead, he would have been. There's no way they would have taken a chance for one on that kid. They would have had a professional assassin
They
there.
would have had some dude that was like a sniper in Vietnam who
Yeah.
was like awesome at doing that shit.
Yeah. Professional.
Totally. And he would be deader than a doornail. And they probably wouldn't have waited for him to do some speech. They would have just taken him out when he was like, playing golf at Mar-a-Lago or something.
Right.
I just feel like, what's the whole point of having a script? Because if that's the case, what about like someone like Putin? Is he an actor? Is she an actor? Has a cult taken over the whole world, and the only people that are allowed to have any prominence in this soap opera we're seeing unfold are people who are playing out a script? I mean, could that be? Or is it just this country that's obsessed
I
with the
know.
media?
That's a really good question. I mean, I don't think it could be just this country, but I think it probably originated here. We are the land of Hollywood. So,
That's what we export.
yeah. And but I think a lot of other countries have probably caught on to it now,
Yeah.
like the UK, probably even China,
Well, because what you have is, and this gets back to kind of the in crowd, like you were talking about how you were kind of in the in crowd and got the vibe like these people are kind of weird. I always had that too. Like if I ever felt like I was being close to the in crowd, I would do some self reflection and vote myself off of the island.
They're just very phony,
They totally are.
But the problem is, I think most people, they want to be in the in crowd. And so for like America, the in crowd is definitely Hollywood.
Hollywood.
The music business.
But now the in crowd has kind of like
it's
kind of transformed to now it's the cool people in the alternative media scape. Like Joe Rogan is the new zeitgeist.
Right, right.
And Russell Brand is the new
Yeah.
zeitgeist. And now Alex Jones is on his tippy toes, but he's a cool guy too.
It's like the underground in crowd.
They're the underground. They're the
in-crowd.
rebels.
Yeah.
They're the rebels.
Yeah.
But then you look at like who these people are and you go, you're an actor too. You seem like a fraud to me too. And so I think it's like some people are opportunists and they will jump at any opportunity for fame and money and they don't stand for anything.
Right. Well, it kind of goes back to like the whole thing that we've always we keep mentioning is that most people are followers,
Yep.
So they're going to follow whatever they think the cool trendy thing is at
That's
the
it.
time, so like the COVID thing was, that was cool and trendy at the time. And, everybody go get your shots, wear your mask, even though, I mean, it doesn't sound like it was cool, but those people saw it as the thing that they
Oh my
needed to
God, the
follow.
COVIDians, the
It was
branch
cool.
COVIDians, they were the in crowd.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah.
And remember, they had the rock stars, they had Eddie Vedder on
Oh
there
yeah.
singing, and, the guy from Offspring going, if you don't get the shot, you're kicked out of the band.
All
You
the
know what I'm saying?
all the old rockers that were, all
Rebellious.
against the man in the like
Now they're
60s.
like, get your shot.
Yeah. Now they're like, go get it.
We went and protested over at Pennywise played a concert, and Pennywise, obviously, back in the 90s or whatever, they had a song that was like, fuck the authority. And it was like, okay, so you say fuck the authority, but now you're going to put on a concert where, in order to get into Ventura Theater that night, you had to either wear a mask. And if you weren't vaccinated, you had to wear a mask and go get a fake PCR test and have shit jammed up your nose, or
Get
have
nose
the
raped.
vaccine and show your vaccine passport.
Yeah.
And I was like, so this is a punk band who said fuck the authority, and now in order to go in, and I was like interviewing on I had my camera running, and I was like interviewing like people waiting to get in, and I was like, so you're into punk, huh? And I was like, what do you think about the fact that blah blah blah? And they were like, no, no, it's not up to them. And I was like, no, it totally is up to them.
Yeah.
They could have said, no, I'm not going to play here. If you
Right.
guys are going to have that be the policy, we'll find another venue. But they're just like, no, no.
Well, they probably all got the vax too, and they just followed along.
It
And
was
yeah,
so in crowd. That's a
yeah,
perfect example
yeah,
of the in crowd.
yeah. Just follow along, do what everybody else is doing.
And that's what these people are like. And I think that's kind of what that that whole phenomena of people being desperate to be in the in crowd makes them susceptible to be manipulated and controlled.
Right. So when they see all of this stuff happening, like in the media, in movies, TV, whatever, um, I don't think most people could even fathom that a lot of it is scripted.
Well, like it
You
just
know.
occurred to me that the whole idea of an in crowd in high school back in the 80s and the 90s was full on social engineering. Because
Hmm.
why would kids automatically revolve to like an in crowd? I mean, I can imagine there was always kind of popular kids, but there was a very kind of definitive kind of phenomena taking place when we were in school,
But you know
right?
what? They've been doing social engineering for a really long time. And
That's true.
I bet they've been, this master plan that they have. How long do you think that's been in place? 50 years? Maybe
Well,
maybe 100?
they had the Tavistock Institute started back in 1905, and that's basically all they do is brainwashing.
So, I mean, probably
They've
100 years
they've
of
honed it
yeah,
down. I think what kind of happened was MK Ultra, and I think we should do an episode on MK Ultra.
we will.
They they started by MK Ultraing one person, and then with what they learned from how they could
They
MK
were
Ultra
like,
one
wow, this is
person,
pretty easy.
we can do this
We
to the
yeah.
masses through the media. And I
Hmm.
think that's what we're looking at.
Hmm.
And I think what makes people susceptible is this idea of desperately wanting to be in the in crowd, adopting the identity of the in crowd. Like if you'll notice, some people are so like almost live action role playing.
Hmm.
When you talk to them, it's like you're like a total media product. You're not a real human being, just being yourself. You're all of your thoughts, all of your opinions. All of your whole worldview is just what the media
Yeah,
told
it's
you.
just regurgitation of what they're hearing and seeing on TV. And
And so I think now that is what's going on. I think we're being shown a movie because Trump doesn't feel real. And then you have Elon,
oh
and
yeah,
he is like
he's like a big supporting character.
he's in the in crowd right
He's
now.
trying to be he I think he was yeah,
He
he is.
feels like he's
He
Brad Pitt now.
yeah, he was always trying to be like in the in crowd. I picture him as this nerdy kid that was never in the in crowd, and now he's like, "Oh, I'm in the in
He's
crowd
getting
now."
chicks.
Yeah,
And now he's so excited he's getting chicks. And then
and maybe he'll have a starring role now. I mean, he
like the
kind of
way that
does.
I was kind of seeing it was like if you go read the news stories at InfoWars, everything is just like, oh, because now what's cool? It's the big balls of Doge and how they're just going in and they're the new sheriff in town. They're
Right,
cleaning
right.
up. Dude, all of that just seems to me like Pyrrhic victories. I'm not seeing anything different where the rubber meets the road
And
out here.
meanwhile, they're gonna get these 15-minute cities into place, and put us in this digital prison. Like while they say that they're getting rid of all these things like DEI and
Yeah.
stuff, they're meanwhile implementing all the digital stuff that is going to basically
You could see the
keep us
meme.
under control.
You could see the meme of like someone with the Trump hat on sitting in a prison cell going, they got rid of DEI.
That's a great one.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, totally.
Meanwhile, they're sitting in a prison, like thinking it's great.
But it's okay because it's my prison.
See, the Trump cult thing is almost like 90210. Like you
Yeah,
do not talk bad about Brandon.
right. That's true.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
seriously.
Like Trump is their Brandon, and
Yeah,
he's just like, because if you go, could Trump be in the cult? And they're just like, how dare you?
yeah.
He is God's chosen. I've actually had people tell me that. Like, did you see the way God saved his life? And I said, I saw the way they scripted that fake assassination attempt. But no, I didn't see God's hand in that. I saw like maybe Oliver Stone's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then like, was Biden an actor? I heard someone even saying Jim Carrey was playing that dude. Now, I don't believe that, but at the same time, his ears were way different than it was back in the 90s.
That guy was not the same guy. I
You know
mean,
what I'm
if you
saying?
if you look at pictures side by side, okay, so people are like,
He
oh,
was an idiot before, but not that big of an idiot.
yeah. I mean, his voice changed. Okay, oh, that changes with age. You say like his ears were different. People are like, well, he got a facelift, but do your
That
ears change
much?
when you get a facelift? I don't think
No.
so.
It was
I
a
mean, that's
totally
like the
different
shape of his
dude.
ears,
Like
you
it
know?
looks like Joe Biden kicked the bucket like 10 years ago and then they propped up this
Yeah.
like
Or he
lizard.
got he got voted off the island in his group and got sent somewhere else, and they brought
I
in
think
the
that's a thing.
they got brought in
I'm
the new
not
guy.
until I get proven wrong, I'm thinking that's a thing.
I think for
People
sure.
get voted off the island
Yeah.
or their role
Is
comes to
is
an end.
over. Yeah. It's like, a series where, somebody,
Like
you
Diddy
might
right now. Diddy is
yeah,
about to get voted off
yeah.
Pleasure Island. He's not going to go to jail. He's not
Yeah.
going to get killed. He's going to go to some, like, okay, maybe it's that land that they have that they've discovered that the UN has on their label.
Antarctica.
Yeah, it's like beyond.
Yeah.
That's where they're
Maybe
hanging it.
that's where they all
That's where they
go.
all go.
Yeah, after they
Now their
complete
role
their
is complete.
their 3 episode arc or 3 season arc,
Yeah.
then
Because I
they get
always,
off the
P.
series.
Diddy was one of those people where I was like, this guy's not talented. He's
Yeah,
not charming.
yeah.
Why the fuck is this guy so famous?
He had
And
a role to play.
he had the role to play, and that's what
Hmm.
I'm thinking. It's coming to an end now, and he has
Oh
to
my
he has
gosh.
to be the baby oil guy and then disappear,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks. But he
Wow.
probably signed on to that right from the get go.
Right. It was in his contract. And then
Yeah,
he's like, okay, and then I can go live in Antarctica,
yeah.
all this. We might have just discovered
What's going on with Diddy?
the whole point of Antarctica, like the secret. Maybe
It's
that's where they all go when
Jim
they
Morrison
retire.
and Kurt Cobain are
They
there.
retire from their part in this whole show and they get sent over there.
Isn't it completely plausible?
It's totally plausible.
Because everything that we know is given to us by this two-dimensional thing.
Hmm.
It's whether, like, if you think about it, you and I are of the age where most of the shit we know is from TV, movies, and fucking social media. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it's
So, like,
constant
if you think
brainwashing.
about,
And if you can't separate yourself from that, then you believe everything they're telling you.
that's right.
And that's the problem. But
And they know. So, why is it so hard to conceive of the fact that if you're getting all your information from this two-dimensional box, what's coming through on there is
it's
programming.
programming.
If you're
Yeah.
not getting truth from there.
You know what? Can we just go back to Antarctica for a second? Because you know how I'm really curious about it, and I said like, I want to know what's there.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
we figured out what's there, and now I don't want to go there anymore. If it's full of all of them, you know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah. Because think about how
That's what
lame
it
it
is.
probably
It's
is.
like super lame.
You're with all of the people who are the opportunists who got to go play their
From
movie
past
role.
seasons of America
Yeah. They're like
or the world, past seasons of the world.
yeah, they're you know what they are? Have you ever seen that movie Babylon with Brad Pitt? Did you ever watch
No,
that?
I didn't.
And it was kind of like about the decadent 1920s Hollywood scene. And Brad Pitt plays this actor where he's talking with his agent, and basically, I can't remember all the specifics, but the long and the short of it is, your career's done. You played the heroic tough guy, kind of like the early Indiana Jones kind of guy. But now you're too old
Yeah.
and people don't really care anymore. So you're washed up. So it goes and knocks himself off because there's nothing now. It's like my role is over. So think about how pathetic that island must be that they're all at because now their role's over. They're no longer
They're
in
all
the spotlight.
has-beens.
They can
They're
never
all
come back.
has-beens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's got to be so lame. It's got to be like, did you ever watch the regular show with your kid? The regular
The
show?
regular show. No.
You never heard
What's
about that?
that?
It was this cartoon, and it's like this blue jay and this raccoon or whatever. And there was this one episode where there was an island where dudes went with when chicks dumped them.
Oh.
And it was so funny because they all had beards, they're all moping around, and they all had to stay there until they got over the chick, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And that's
funny.
probably where Diddy is now,
Yeah.
and Jeffrey Epstein, they're all playing cards and like talking about the glory days.
They're trying to like figure out if they can make a comeback and be like B actors in the next.
You know, their only chance is like to go through like expensive surgery and totally change their whole like face and everything, but they're considering it because they're like, I
You
can't
know
take
what?
not being in the spotlight.
Some of them probably do that. They probably recycle some of them and
Yeah.
bring them back, as like
Well, if
different.
somebody's willing to just go do that, I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably hard to find somebody like that,
Mhm.
you know? Well, anyways, I think that's an interesting idea. I mean, obviously it's tough to prove, but could it be that, you know, not only are we being lied to, but everything we're watching is a script and a movie? You know what I'm saying? And I think the more you look at it through that lens, the more obvious it becomes that that's what's going on, you know?
I think that's a really good question to ask and something to consider.
And why would they want us thinking that way? Because they want us to focus on what they want us to focus on.
Hmm.
Because again, like we've kind of been talking about,
Focus here and
that
not
digital
there.
prison is being built around you, but stay focused on watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Go
If
have
we
some
can entertain
Tostitos.
you, if we can entertain you, maybe you won't notice all the horrible things we're doing.
I don't know how people sit through the Super Bowl. I mean, the commercials are so obnoxious.
Oh my gosh, and the music, the entertainment, it
Who
was
watched it
like,
last night?
I don't even
It's
know.
always like some satanic ritual for some
It
reason.
was like some rapper, and I was like, okay, I'm glad they took time out of their pants dropping schedule to show up for Super Bowl because it was like a full on like scene out of. You remember that movie Clueless where she
Yeah.
said that because they were all holding their pants up because they were like falling down. I mean,
Yeah, that's
it's
come
just
back, and it never should have been in a thing in the first place.
I don't even know what that is, but it was so weird, and I don't know. It was pretty bad.
I don't know how people sit through the Super Bowl. I think it's because,
Lots of beer and nachos. That's
and also
that's
I
how
think
you do it.
I think people are conditioned to just going, well, this is what I do today.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Super Bowl Sunday.
It's Super Bowl Sunday. The media told me this is what I'm going to do. You know, which okay, there's a bunch of cool dudes that I've hung out with that probably loved it. I brought it up to a couple of girls I was talking to yesterday at the place I buy weed.
Oh, great.
I was talking to her, and I'm like, she's like, "You're not going to watch the Super Bowl?" And I'm like, "Nah, I boycott the NFL." And they're all really, and I'm like, "Yeah." Ever since all that stupid like Black Lives Matter and taking the knee and stuff, I was like, "That's a cult," you know. And she's like, "I love football." I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
"Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's like
that I don't know why that's really unusual for a woman to be really into football. I remember one time I was on an airplane and there was this lady traveling alone and she had her laptop in front of her and she was watching a football game and I just thought it just seemed really weird to me.
not for your husband's sake, but
Yeah.
just for your own accord."
I don't know why that seems weird to me, but
It
it
is
just
weird.
and I was like, okay, it seems like it would sort of be like if I saw a guy sitting by himself and he was like watching figure skating or something. I don't know. It just
Oh my God!
it
On that
just
note,
doesn't seem normal.
we'll finish this one off with that note because I used to work with this gay dude and he was classic. He was hilarious. Not that I advocate for his lifestyle, but he was a funny fucker. And I was talking with him because he was close to our age. And I was like, "What was your favorite sitcom back in the 80s?" And he didn't even hesitate, like he was ready for me to ask. And I asked it out of the blue. He's all, "Oh, Designing Women."
Designing women.
And then he goes, "Delta Burke is my spirit animal."
Oh my
And I was
gosh,
like, oh
that's
my God, it was so
hilarious.
funny. But yeah, like I was like, okay, whatever, So you never can tell what people are gonna like, I mean, I hated Designing Women.
There's
I
got
tried to
I
watch
didn't
that.
like it either. But there's, different strokes for different folks.
That
That's
was a
why,
good show.
yeah, that's why there's so many different things out there. But I think the point of our
I don't
conversation
mind watching
today,
media. I
yeah,
watch movies. You and I have
we
talked about,
we want to be entertained. We're not saying that you should
yeah,
just sit in your house and not do anything and
but
not
like
watch
that's
anything.
not the truth.
No,
That's not what's going on.
we're just questioning like what they're telling us is the truth. Is that possibly scripted as well?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's what I think it is. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Butterfly, what rabbit hole are we going to go down next time? Did you have some ideas?
Well, we were talking about do last time. Do
DEW, direct energy weapons,
Yeah.
which don't exist apparently.
Oh,
I've been told that that's just a complete ridiculous farce. And, when metal melts, that's just a forest fire.
interesting.
Hmm.
They all seem to be tied into this thing called climate change.
Yeah, climate
Maybe
change has caused like BMWs to actually get melted down into liquid.
hmm
Hmm.
maybe we could have a conversation about those two things because they kind of go hand in hand,
I think
you
so.
know?
I think so. We're actually burning down your neighborhood, but we're gonna attribute it to your meat eating. But yeah,
Yeah. We'll go down that rabbit hole.
that sounds
Okay.
great. All right. Great seeing you again.
Great seeing you.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Okay.